Hi everyone. So as this presentation evolved, less focus on the continuation of last year's presentation and more on agility, stability and delivery. So I will get us straight into it. So for those of you that aren't as familiar with Emerald, we're a mid-sized publisher with big ambitions, and we have that slightly quirky attribute that we're based in the north of England, just outside of Bradford. It's a proud family business, it's got roots in Yorkshire and strong links throughout the community. So, as it was just referred there, last year, Emerald's Technology Director, Alice Fleet, presented a session on Emerald's agile journey and the early progress in our steps towards a model of SAFE for our portfolio management. In the session today, I'm going to provide an update on progress from the last 12 months, plus a summary overview of the development journey and delivery of our new Emerald platform. So just a quick recap of some of the key points from last year's presentation. We kick-started our digital and agile transformation back in May 2016 with a number of drivers that included an increasingly geographically distributed teams. We had a real need for innovation, both in terms of new product propositions and response to the open movement, and really recognition of the importance of cross-functional teamwork and transparency around progress. And at the point of the update from Alice around 12 months ago, we were responding to a number of continued frustrations. So a lack of prioritisation, mainly due to the fact that our teams were just far too big. Absence of focus, we had lots of task switching, inadequate skill development, and as a result of all of that, we had really slow delivery, which led to management frustration and a demoralisation of our development teams. Through the introduction of foundations of scaling within the programs, we looked to separate product management and ownership so that we had a really neat defined flow of prioritised features for story development, setting up the why, what and how triad of product, architecture and planning so that we had clear architectural enablers, and working on our DevOps tool chain. There was a slide there, just take my word for it. But it wasn't an important one. Oh, there we go, it's coming in. Sorry, I didn't realise there was an animation on that. So the necessity of scaling at business level to deliver the different types of work through the squad model. And then finally, in the session last year, Alice noted some of the key challenges that we were continuing to face into. So we had the need to retain a balance in the social contract between Emerald and its staff, thinking about how we could really look into some of the complex and intertwined legacy system that we needed to deal with. Could we build our architectural and infrastructure capabilities fast enough to keep pace? And how were we going to deal with all this with small teams and tight deadlines? But away we go. But beyond those future challenges that I outlined in that last slide, we still had the same problems facing us. Delivery was still slow and inefficient. Scrum was still too big, and despite having split into a number of smaller teams or squads, there was still no real structure to our delivery. We had little accountability of the development we were releasing or the quality of the code. The team had never completed a single sprint, and we just weren't unlocking the potential of our team. So we still had the same issues: lack of prioritisation, absence of focus, slow delivery. In a mission to address our delivery structures and processes, we'd really lost sight of the most important aspects. This is my favourite slide. I use this one a lot as well. So ultimately, we'd lost sight as a team of what we were trying to deliver and why. Vision, outcomes, alignment. And so while scale and alignment still feels to be the right step forward in our delivery ambitions, at the moment, it's still somewhat aspirational. It was time to get back to basics and refocus on what the jobs to be done were. So, the why. In late 2017, we started work on the relaunch of Emerald Insight Platform, our premier product for content and data delivery. Moving away from a licensed third-party SaaS system, Emerald had taken the decision to bring the architecture, product and release roadmaps, along with data modelling, in-house to drive our speed, control, and flexibility in new product and proposition development. The what? An open community platform that connects impactful research with the people who use it for the benefit of all. It needs to be an amazing customer digital experience based on intuitive technology and simple UI, because ultimately, the user doesn't care what technology is used or the processes to get there. They just want it to work and work really well. Our business, industry, and world is changing. It's data-driven, it's experience-based, it's personalised, and it's driven by the customer. And throughout our business, diversification and a deep understanding of the value chain is critical. So we went back to basics on our Agile and Scrum methodology, because no organisation undergoes a transformation just to be agile. They do it in order to ship code-based products to customers in order to realise value as quickly as possible. It's all about delivering and achieving outcomes. We returned to the core components that were needed in place to deploy a production-ready product, returning to our initial user research and feedback. What were the outcomes for our customers that we wanted to deliver through our platform launch? We wanted an improved search experience, streamlined authentication process, intuitive navigation, and the ability for our customers to access the services that they're entitled to. We balanced the scope with the timeframe for launch, and we let things go on the basis that we would iterate, improve, and deploy new features through new code. We had a tight timeframe for release and launch, and so tight control on scope was required, with tight focus from the teams on that end goal. So our charter, and I don't have any fancier narrative for this. Again, we went back to the basics. We formed those cross-functional empowered squads. The key point is that they had clear objectives. We returned to agile values. We aligned our product managers with our product owners. They had become far too separated, and we brought that relationship back. We focused on delivering value and nothing else. We leaned down those processes. We viewed each sprint as a live deployment. We introduced outcome milestones, prioritised by value, and we really went back to what our vision and goal was. And we tried to introduce some fun in doing this as well. So much of the build has been about building those core skills in-house, focusing on product management with the control of our roadmap, data, and architecture, and working with partners and existing solutions to best complement our core skills and vision. In particular, we've worked practically hand in hand with our development partners, 6-7 Bricks, throughout this initial build and launch, and continue to do so. And the same is true of our work with Rave in terms of testing and support. So then on the 4th of July this year, after 18 months of scoping, refining, development, testing, planning, blood, sweat, tears, I finally pressed that big red button and we launched a new version of Emerald Insight, the first step towards Emerald's open community platform. So, with control of our platform comes the responsibility of supporting and evolving it. We now have no one else to leverage for that. So whilst we need to ensure that we continue to develop the platform, we also need to ensure that we're building the right things to differentiate Emerald in its niche. Plus, we still have all the ambition and drive to deliver all the many, many things that provoked this transition in the first place. Work is in progress to fully develop and implement Emerald's prioritisation framework going forward, as underpinned by the aligned triad of product, delivery, and architecture. This effective alignment will be the keystone of our future approach and our future success, and perhaps we can update on that next year. So, our key learnings. What have we learnt to this point so far? Agile is a good thing, but remember what the objective of using agile development is. The size of organisation and its ambitions may require to scale agile, and that will work, but make sure that you're ready for it and that it's a version that suits the organisation, because Spotify works at Spotify, but we found that we're not Spotify and we need to find our own model. Keep in sight that overarching goal, deliver value, prioritise by value, and make sure that it's the core factor in your prioritisation, processes and decisions. And if you do find that you're going down a rocky path, come back to those agile principles. Keep it transparent, keep it visible, inspect, review what you're doing, and adapt and iterate. And ultimately, it is about keeping those core agile principles at the heart of whatever approach you take. That's it. Thank you. So I am aware that I'm between you all and lunch, but I do appear to have raced through that, so if there are any questions, happy to take them. Happy to go straight to lunch as well, but...
It's me again. Sorry. I'm very interested in what you've done there, and we also tried the Spotify platform because it was, well, they do beautiful diagrams, and you can't help but love Spotify, so you think they must be doing things right. And it didn't work for us either, and again, you've got to adapt it to how your organisation works. So it's definitely not a silver bullet. A lot of it is the right people, good people, and as you say, a kind of shared vision. So same sort of experiences, just sharing it with you.
And that's not to say that there aren't many, many good things that we took from learning around the Spotify model and experimenting with it. But I think there is that. I think the fact that it isn't a silver bullet and that you do need to find your own way was the key takeaway that we've taken from this. Yeah.
Hi, sorry, it was just a quick question because I didn't finish the Scrum platform diagram, so I just wanted to know what is on the last column, because it's transparency and
so
inspection
adaptation,
and adaptation. Amazing.
So for me, the principles here are have full invisibility, take the time to review what you're doing, and if it's not working, change it.
So it's Tasha at the back here. Has there been a cultural impact on the wider Emerald group from doing such a big shift in the way that you work with your technology?
I would say that the cultural shift at organisation level is still very much work in progress, but what has shifted is the appreciation of the need for that cultural shift across the organisation. I think what has happened at Emerald, which is typical of many organisations, is that we've adapted our processes and our culture and our ways of working in technology, and then we're working in isolation. We expect the rest of the business to move along with us. And increasingly, there is that appreciation that needs to be extended across the business. And in terms of being able to move forward as a business, we need to have a single method of prioritisation. And I think we've tended to talk about the product roadmap and the rest of the business, and we are now moving to a point where there's just a roadmap. Yes.
Hi there. I'm just interested, you mentioned one of the things or the lessons that you addressed was the alignment between product management and product owner.
Yeah.
Why did you differentiate those things in the first place? Was that a kind of a conscious thing to kind of split that role?
It was a conscious decision, and it was for the right reasons. There was a general feeling that by splitting the roles, we could allow the product management team to focus more on the future.
Right.
So building the right things and what the strategy of that would look like, and the ownership to actually work within the development teams and make sure that we were doing it in the right way. So build the right things, build them right. In the process of doing that, the two roles became too far separated. And what we tended to find was that we were simply prioritising items that were ready for development and not necessarily the right things to do. So by bringing that much closer, the objective behind that is to just ensure that product ownership are very, very clear of what that product vision is and why we're doing things. So again, it's just coming back to the outcomes. What's the point of doing this?
Okay.
Sure. Hi there. I'm here. You mentioned that the perception of Agile was quite negative when things were going badly. Can you share any strategies that you used with the teams to kind of improve that when you restarted your Agile journey?
Yeah, so I guess I'm sorry, I'm racing back through because a lot of it came down to more of the activities, to be honest, that we employed. So most of this is around active learning and demonstrating the benefits of it. So we invested a lot of time in paired programming activities, in knowledge sharing activities, in really just engaged group workshops of working through the different user stories, the use cases, the objectives, and just helping people see what we could achieve if we did things in small bite-sized pieces rather than trying to eat that elephant, which, as I know, is the old cliche. So I think the strategy was really very much about engaging our teams as to what the benefits for them would be and how they could actually see the real impact of what they were doing very, very quickly.
Hello there. Just wanted to ask with regard to the changes that you made to your management systems. Did you factor in, as you start to become a larger sized publisher from a mid-sized publisher, do you factor in that those changes will be scalable at that level, or do you envisage a whole restructuring once you get to that point?
Oh. That is a really good question, and not necessarily something that I've given an awful lot of thought to, but I think I guess what we have introduced, whether by plan or by serendipity, is that we are getting to a point where we've where we've broken down the business into different components and different business areas. And in the same way that I guess our architecture for our delivery systems is now broken down into neat modules that we can either replicate or scale or move around as needed. I guess similar could be true of our management structure and systems as well. But that's perhaps one maybe to take away and discuss later, if that's okay. I need to give that one some thought.
With regards to the previous question about agile adoption,
yeah.
I think I'm loud enough, but and the resistance. Who were the hardest people to convince then? Was it the developers? Was it the product people? Was it the business people? Where did you find? Did you find more resistance in one group than another?
I think that as a whole, the business was open to the concept of agile. I think there was a general appreciation that due to a number of legacy systems, legacy projects, that the more traditional waterfall development and because we had worked almost primarily with third-party vendors, that we wanted to try something new. I guess the biggest resistance is the business, in particular the finance teams, of being able to demonstrate what the end point of this is. When will we start to realise value from that minimal viable product? And just that point, I do agree that it should be sellable, but I also think that it can only be viable if it is sellable as well. But how do you then move beyond that viable product to something that's really going to bring in that return in investment? And I think that is the biggest shift from being able to embrace that complete picture of waterfall, which, as those who are involved in agile development will know, is all a fallacy anyway, because you never actually get to that end point. You never realise that investment anyway, but being able to present that picture of what that might look like. Great. Thank you very much.